Good morning, everybody. My name is Megan Gill. I'm with Bridges to Independence, the district transition program for Oregon City School District. And we are here today with Emily from the ARC, Oregon, to discuss guardianship and conservatorship. Emily, the table goes to you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you. And I'm excited to be here. I love talking about guardianship. I do have a disclaimer. I know way more about guardianship than conservatorship, but I can give you some decent information to get you started on conservatorship. So thank you for having me. I'm going to quickly do my screen share, and I'm going to not talk while doing that because I may accidentally hang up on you if I multitask too much. All right. Are you guys seeing a gentleman with a horse? Awesome. Well, as Megan said, I am here to talk about guardianship and conservatorship. I am with the ARC Oregon, and I work as a professional guardian. So one reason I know information on this. So as we get started, I'm going to talk for probably about 20 minutes, and then I will have a place for questions. I'm going to go through a lot of information. I'll try and remind myself to go slow because I get a little excited and passionate about some things. So here we go. And again, if you didn't hear before, there's leaf blowers outside my window, but hopefully they should be gone soon. And at least I don't have my dog with me because then I wouldn't be able to talk with leaf blowers. So the basics around guardianship. One of the things I like to talk about a guardianship are the reasons why it is used and needed. So a guardianship or conservatorship is used when someone does not have the ability to make informed decisions about major areas of their life. So they can't provide informed choice or decision around a medical procedure or around where they should live. So that's the reason for guardianship, is when someone, whether it's through disability or maybe it's from aging. A lot of individuals, when we get older, struggle with making decisions. So guardianship is available across a spectrum of need for folks. The other thing to know about in Oregon is there is a difference between guardianship and conservatorship. In Oregon, when you're a guardian, you're guardian of the person. So you get to make decisions about the person's health, well-being, medical, where they live, those type of decisions. If you're a conservator, the conservator makes decisions and manages the money. So in Oregon, those are two different things. One thing to know, as you guys grow or as your families, grow or move, that can change when you go outside Oregon. So in some states, guardianship is everything. It's guardian of the person and those medical and residential decisions and financial. So something that confuses some folks sometimes, but in Oregon, it's two different processes that we go through. When can you pursue guardianship or conservatorship? A lot of parents and individuals get worried that they have to do it right at 18, or you can never become guardian or conservator. You can start the process as early as 90 days before the 18th birthday, all the way, as I said, up until someone is old and aging. So there's guardianships that start when someone's 80 or 90 because they have dementia and can no longer make decisions. So it's not something you have to hurry up and decide now if you're not sure about doing it or if it might not be right. So wanted to get that out there because a lot of people worry. One other thing in Oregon about looking at guardianship or conservatorship, if that's the decision-making support that is deemed what you, the student, the individual, or the parent deems is necessary, when you're asking for that, it has to be shown that what are called alternatives to guardianship were tried out first and why they didn't work. That is a whole hour-long discussion on its own of what those are, but wanting to let you all know that there are alternatives to guardianship out there to support decision-making for adults with disabilities. So there's alternatives around medical decisions, alternatives around the financial decisions, alternatives to support educational decisions. Because as you know, some of you might be in school from 18 until you're 21. So getting help with educational decisions during that time, so that you can be ready to either go to work or further school. Also decisions around if you get services from the state, if you have developmental disability services, or if you utilize self-sufficiency things, there's alternatives there. And then there's way to support just basic decisions. So wanting everybody to know that there are alternatives to guardianship, and many of those are free and don't require court involvement. Whereas as I get to guardianship and conservatorship, those have court involvement and some fees. Many of these alternatives do not. So if you're interested in alternatives, my contact information is at the end. Please get a hold of me and I will let you know when my next presentation on all those are, or I can talk to you one-on-one and we can problem solve and see what might work for any individual person. So specifics on guardianship. One of them is, what is the role that a guardian would play? So a guardian is appointed by the court to help make decisions for an adult. So it is what is called a decision-making authority, and they are responsible to provide for the health and welfare of the person they're guardian for. So that guardian is responsible for where the person lives, for medical decisions, and general health and wellness decisions. What decisions a guardian is able to do is outlined by the judge in the order. So we'll get to some of those more specifics, but they have to follow what the judge says. The other role of a guardian, and one I think is very important to not forget, is even if someone has a guardian, that guardian is supposed to help the person continue to grow and learn. So continue to increase their independence, increase their skills, help them get out and about in the community and do what the person wants to do, and be that driver behind helping the person live the life they want and increase that self-reliance. So even if there is a guardian, independence and decision-making that the person can do is still to be encouraged. It's a very similar role for the conservator, but the conservator is managing the money. So the conservator is looking at the money of the person and making sure enough is saved when it needs to be saved, and that it's being spent on things that the person needs, wants, and likes. So again, very similar to guardianship, that the financial decisions they make are within the scope of the conservatorship, and still to encourage self-reliance and independence. So a conservator could still work with a person, an individual, on building budgeting skills and on building understanding, making change. Because the other part that I forgot back up the beginning is guardianship or conservatorship does not have to be forever. So if you're thinking at 18, whether it's you as a parent or an individual, that you need a little extra support, and guardianship might be what works for now to help build skill, and then at 26, 27, 30, more skills have been established, your young adult has a great sense of community around them, you can do what's restoration of rights, and the guardianship can go away. So guardianship, once it's started, does not have to be maintained forever, particularly if the person has gained some skills, or as we know, technology is changing. And so maybe new assistive technology comes out where the person is better able to communicate or to make decisions, and then the guardianship isn't needed. So one other thing to think about, that it's not has to last forever. It can be terminated. So, all right, what is guardianship? Guardianship is a decision-making authority. So it means whoever becomes the guardian has the ability to make decisions for another person. So that's a huge responsibility, but it also has its limits. Guardianship is a legal process. So if there's going to be a guardian put in place, it has to go through the court system. I have another slide in a minute that shows what that process is through the court system. but it's not possible to become a guardian without the court's involvement. Guardianship is also tied to specific areas of life. And what I mean by this is a guardian can make decisions about where someone lives. A guardian can make decisions about what medical treatment someone gets. A guardian cannot make decisions about employment. Employment is not one of the things covered under guardianship statute in Oregon. So if somebody wants to go get a job and work, the guardian can help with that process, can help, facilitate that and can work with the team, but they're not supposed to say no to it and forbid someone from getting a job. So just a piece of information there, because I know a lot of you, particularly in the classroom, are in transition and working towards what does a job look like. So know that you can get employment and a job. A guardian does what's called provide informed consent. That's one of those types of decisions that has a pretty high threshold. So they provide that they've looked at the pros and cons or the risks and benefits, particularly of a medical procedure, and they'll say, yes, we need to do that, or no, they don't. The other part is a guardian's supposed to kind of stay back and not make decisions the person can make themselves, unless the person is making decisions that could result in injury or harm. So if decisions are being made that maybe guardian doesn't quite agree with, but no person's not getting hurt, the guardian is not supposed to step in and make it stop. So what this may look like is some of you in the classroom there, maybe you have a friend that mom or dad doesn't quite like. It happens. If you end up with someone as your guardian, just because they don't like your friend doesn't mean they can tell you not to see your friend unless your friend is hurting you. So that's kind of example of where that fits in. A couple things to let you know what guardian is not, because sometimes people don't understand or overstep what they can do. This first one is the ability to limit association. That's what I was just talking about, like with the friends. A guardian is not to step in and say, you can't be friends with Johnny just because they don't like him. If Johnny, though, is hurting you, then they can say that. The guardian also doesn't have the ability to determine, as I said, friends, clothing, or diet. Those are those little day-to-day decisions that increase self-reliance and independence and don't put someone at serious risk of harm. So if you end up with a guardian, the guardian shouldn't be saying, oh, you can't wear that shirt because I don't like it, or saying you have to go to bed at 10 p.m. because I said so. Those aren't kind of those smaller day-to-day decisions that fall within a scope of guardianship. Guardianship is for those big decisions around medical, residential, health and welfare type things. Guardianship in Oregon, as I said before, does not necessarily give the guardianship financial authority. So that means the ability to make decisions about money. This can be a little confusing because if the person who is under guardianship has less than $10,000, a guardian can manage funds. But if it's above that, that's where that conservatorship comes in. So that one's kind of a little harder to understand and goes a little both ways. And guardianship can't protect any of us from bad choices. Things happen. We live our day-to-day lives, and every now and then we make choices that aren't the best. And so one thing I like to talk with parents who are looking at becoming guardians about, or people who have a guardian, is that reminder that education and proactive strategies around risks is going to benefit someone more than just guardianship. Because as a guardian, and I work as one, I can't be one-to-one with someone everywhere all the time to protect from every decision. So remembering that self-reliance and independence piece and that education. So quickly, the process, kind of what a lot of the parents I run into and folks are worried about or don't understand. In Oregon, this is a legal process. Some people have tried to self-represent and been successful, but that's really difficult in Oregon, the way our statute and rules are. So I most often tell people, if you're going to go for guardianship, to retain an attorney because they understand the process and can get it done. What will happen then is the attorney will help draft what's called a petition, and that will go to the court. Also, the person who they're looking to become guardian for, so for instance, maybe some of you in the class, mom or dad might look at guardianship. You, if mom or dad looks to become guardian, you will get a piece of paper from the court telling you that that's what's happening and letting you know what to do if you disagree with that. It'll be a big blue piece of paper and give you directions that mom or dad is trying to be guardian and you can agree or disagree with it. So that's something for you to know. From there, the court will assign what's called a court visitor. And this visitor's job is to determine if guardianship is appropriate or conservatorship, and if the person who wants to be guardian is an appropriate guardian. And so the court visitor will visit with the individual who they're looking to have a guardian. They will visit with the potential guardian, and usually they'll talk with one or two of your doctors and a teacher, because teachers, especially for folks 18 to 21, know a lot about the abilities of people. So that court visitor will talk to all those people and will say, yeah, I think the person needs a guardian to help make decisions, or you know what? I think maybe one of those alternatives to guardianship might be a better fit for this person. And they will give that recommendation to the judge. If nobody has objected to the guardianship being in place and the court visitor says they think guardianship is appropriate, there won't be a hearing. Hearings don't always happen in Oregon for guardianship and conservatorship proceedings. So that's why I put maybe next to that one, because if nobody is objecting and it's pretty obvious the person needs a guardian, then they'll just skip straight to the court decision. If somebody's objecting and saying, no, this person doesn't need a guardian, or no, this guardian is not the right person to do the job, there may be a hearing. From there, the court makes its decision, and then whoever is the guardian gets what's called an order that says, you're now guardian of Emily Brayman, I'll use myself, and here's the types of decisions you can make. You can make decisions about where she lives, about her medical care, and general health and well-being. Or it may say medical care and health and well-being, and it was determined Emily can do her own residential. So that order can be written very specific to be individualized for the person and where the person needs decision-making supports. So I think that is great as someone who works in guardianship and wants to make sure people are independent, that guardianship isn't always decisions over everything. We can really specify it to each person. And I'm going to skip the next one because it's on my next slide. And I think only have two more and then we'll be at questions. The conservatorship process goes very similar to what I just said above for guardians. Then the responsibilities, once there is a guardian or conservator in place, what does that look like? One, there's an annual report that has to be filed with the court that says what's going on with the person. So some questions in this are, where's the person live? What does the person do for enjoyment? And have you made any big decisions for them this year? You also have to write on there if you limited their ability to associate with anyone and why. Another is if the person under guardianship is going to move, the court has to be notified 15 days ahead of time. That's even if you are mom and dad and your guardian and your son or daughter who you're guardian over lives with you and the whole family is moving somewhere else, that counts as needing to notify the courts. Or say you're guardian for your son or daughter and they're moving into an apartment of their own or with some friends, or they're moving into supported living with supports, the court needs to know, and you have to let them know ahead of time. The other time is to notify the court if a significant change has occurred. So this is, for instance, if a medical need, like we just had a gentleman have a major stroke, so we had to notify the courts. Or last year, there were wildfires around the state, and I think even out in Clackamas County by you guys, there were some. So we had to notify the courts that some of our folks had to evacuate. So we just sent the court a letter and said, FYI, Emily evacuated. She's safe, but she'll be back in her home. This is the same for conservators. So a conservatorship where the significant change might be is, need to let you know, courts, someone passed away and now Emily got a big inheritance. So Emily has more money now that I'm going to have to manage. So those would be times to notify and let the courts know. Also, particularly for the transition students that are listening here too, say that someone becomes your guardian and you think they're making decisions that aren't in the best interest for you, or they're not letting you do things you want. You have a special relationship with the court and don't have to follow some of the legal stuff in order to get information to the judge to tell them that. So if you end up with a guardian and you're worried that they're protecting you too much and not letting you do or make some choices you think you could make, you can go to the courthouse and talk directly to the court clerk, and they can let the judge know, we might need to look at this guardianship. So I, as a guardian, can't do that. A teacher can't necessarily do that, but because of the nature of guardianship proceedings, if you have a guardian, you're able to do that. And then I'm at questions and contact info. And I think I kept it in my 20 minutes with us starting late.
Absolutely fantastic, Emily. Thank you so much. And at this time, I'm going to open it up to questions, either our guests who popped in or any students or staff in the building.
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might have already said this, but like, if there's a guardian over a person, at any point in time, can the person like not choose to have a guardian? Or can the guardian just like at any random point in time just choose not to be a guardian?
So if there's a guardian in place, to make that guardianship go away, it is another legal court proceeding. But one of the things on the annual report is that the guardian can put, you have to answer a question on the annual report that says this guardianship should or should not continue because, and give a reason. And then the court is to follow up with that, particularly if you say that should not continue because Johnny has gained these skills and now has access to these supports and can make decisions on his own. If, say, Johnny wants to no longer have a guardianship, he can either, as I said, go talk to the courts and tell them why. He can tell his guardian and see if guardian agrees, and they could then do that statement on the annual report. Or if it's contentious between Johnny and the guardian, Johnny can go to what's called Disability Rights Oregon, and they help people who have guardians who don't need them anymore get those guardianships dissolved. But as I said, it does have to go through the courts and there has to be an order of termination. You can't just all of a sudden decide I'm done. Now, if the guardian is done, but Johnny still needs a guardian and needs that support, that again goes to the court for a process, and another guardian has to be found and assigned before the current one can step down.
All right.
I have a question.
Yep.
So what if parents are divorced and they both have custody? Can there be like a co-guardianship where both parents can share guardianship, or is it just with like the primary custodian, or is it one or the other? Is there a way to kind of navigate that?
There can be co-guardians, yes. The only time that becomes a struggle is if as co-guardians, they don't agree, then adult child is kind of stuck in the middle, and things might get heated. But if family works well together, yes, co-guardianships. Because there's also, in looking at if guardianship is what's needed, at some point, if mom or dad is guardian, they may no longer be able to make decisions as they get older. And what can happen there is a co-guardian can be brought on at that point, or what's called a successor guardian. And so that backup person is ready to go for when mom or dad can no longer do it, or the current co-guardians. So sometimes that new is like brother or sister. But we're talking hopefully years down the line. But yes, there's methods to do that.
Excellent, thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, we have a question out here.
Mhm.
My question is kind of silly, but so I saw that a guardian cannot have control over a person's diet, but what if they have a medical condition that a diet could be harmful if they chose to eat a certain way? Would there be an exception to that, or would that need to be in the paperwork, the documents, that they have control over that?
That's when a doctor would step in with a doctor's order. So if there is a medical condition, say diabetes, or PKU is another one with like sodium levels and things like that, or protein levels for PKU, then there can be doctor's orders for modified diets, yes. But what the guardian can't do is just say, you drink too much soda, I'm only allowing you 1 soda a day. You can educate around that. You can help to offer other drinks. But if there's going to be limitation of food, it should come from a medical professional for medical reasons. And I did kind of forget one thing I like to talk about for people to know. So I'm going to throw it in here for a moment so people can think questions of going from being a parent of a minor to a guardian of an adult is a mind shift, and it's hard. And I can say I'm not there yet, but I do have a 14-year-old daughter that will be in transition services, and I will go through this struggle too. But there's a difference between being a parent of a minor and the decisions you get to make there and the control you get to have over your child's life, and a guardian of an adult. Because once you become guardian of adult, your job is really to help them access the life they want, even if sometimes those things aren't what you want or you would want for them. And it's a hard shift to make, and sometimes a hard one to understand, but that thought that they've hit being an adult. And so how can we as a guardian come alongside them and support them while our adult child is in that driver's seat of where they want to go in their life, and we help them with getting to whatever their North Star is and where are they headed. So sometimes that's a struggle for some parents, but it is one I like to acknowledge because it is a different role. Guardian is not an extension of parenthood, of what it looks like as a minor. We're still parent, we still worry, we still freak out about bad decisions or things that we might not agree with. But really making sure the adult son or daughter is in that driver's seat, and we're helping them get where they want to go.
So you had mentioned earlier that a guardian can help sort of manage with the money as long as it's under $10,000.
Yes.
If say the adult who's got a guardian somehow comes out to have more than that, does the guardian then also have to apply for conservatorship? Yes,
or turn the money over to the person. But if the person does not have the ability to manage it, then yes.
Excellent.
I think I saw your list. You guys have heard about ABLE and some of those other money saving mechanisms for folks. So exciting there.
Yeah, there are a lot of really amazing options out there for saving money and being able to hold on to your money and not lose some other benefits out there.
Yes, and options keep growing. Oh, I see Angela's hand is up.
I did have a question about so my daughter has an ABLE account that I'm the person that's in charge of it.
Mhm.
do I need to have the conservatorship to continue managing that, or is that separate somehow?
Is, if it's over 10 grand, I would consult an attorney.
Okay.
And they may say no, because it's means tested or protected, no. But I'm not a full expert, as I said, in conservatorship, so you probably just want to check to be safe.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions? Well, Emily, I just so appreciate you being here, and I don't want to speak for her, but I think my co-teacher Katie, who has been very graciously helping troubleshoot some of our technology, we're both so appreciative, and this is a topic that comes up quite often with students in our program and students at the high school, and so just having some of this information, especially understanding kind of the depth and breadth of guardianship and how it can be so different for each individual student, adult, is really, really valuable information, since I think sometimes there are misconceptions that guardianship is just a one and done thing. It's either all or nothing. So knowing that it's very, very individualized is a really great, great nugget of information to have. So I think on behalf of everybody at Bridges and everybody in our community, we just really say thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us today.
Not a problem. I love sharing and helping people know, because we don't know what we don't know, and we don't understand it either. So, and feel free to reach out if anybody needs any more info. I'm here.
Will do. And I'm going